Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us again. We've got our second, and I guess it's going to be a series of shows on a big vote coming up in Highgate, big issue coming up in Highgate on September 14th, having to do with the Franklin County State Airport, which of course is in Highgate. And happy to have two guests today who will tell us all about this. Andy King, a former Highgate selectman, current employee of an aviation company at BTV in Burlington, and Nathaniel Fortin, marketing and sales at Carmen Brook Farm and contract rotorcraft CFI, and again, a flight instructor with helicopters. Nathaniel?
That about sums it up.
That's right. Sounds like that keeps you pretty busy, huh?
Yep. I'm fortunate enough I get to do that on the side of farming in Highgate.
Wow.
Trying to grow the small business.
Yeah.
Changing how we do things post COVID. So.
Yeah. Carmen Brook Farm certainly has a good name, certainly a familiar name to, I think, most folks around here. So are things just coming off, 15 months of the pandemic, things kind of getting back to normal at the farm these days?
Yeah, we're looking to see how we're going to do the tourism aspect.
And that's something you guys have been doing for a while now?
Yeah, almost 20 years. Anyway.
Really? Wow, 20 years. And a big part, we talked about off air, just farming, a pretty tough way to go these days without bringing in a different kind of component like that.
Yeah, we were dairy farmers until 2018, and then now we're leaning hard into maple and trying to really increase our online presence. And then also we're trying to expand into a cidery, and we've ordered some trees that'll be here in about 20 months or so. So we're looking to benefit the local area as it grows. Hopefully we can ride that wave.
Interesting.
So.
And Andy, a former selectman, you've been off the select board for a while, and again, I should know both two Highgate residents here. Anyway, so September 14th, big doings at the Franklin County State Airport, kind of three parts to the project. Might be worth noting. The state moving ahead with, I guess, an expansion upgrade of the airport, regardless of what Highgate does with this vote. Also, private development of a 7-lot commercial park, and the key part for Highgate, a town-sponsored extension of water and sewer lines from MVU. Total project cost, I guess, about $3.5 million, but the town share will definitely be less than that. Town's still trying to get some grants for that. And I guess the Highgate Select Board is in favor of this project, maybe not unanimously, but I guess close, 4-1. Andy, as a former selectman, how important is that? I mean, for Highgate town residents, I guess I would hope that if the select board is favoring something, that people would at least pay attention to what the select board thinks, or am I being naive and saying
No,
that?
not at all, Richard. Thanks for having us. First of all,
good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it. As a town entity, when I look at where we are, we're kind of a bedroom community.
Yeah.
Most of us go work in some other community, in some other place.
And I guess there's a significant minority or significant percentage of folks are driving over an hour or more to work, and I guess you folks can relate to that.
Very true, very true.
Yeah.
And I think about when I think about industrial expansion such as this, these bedroom communities. And I was watching a report several months ago concerning we were talking about earlier off air. Concerning Middlesex and how they are having a hard time maintaining a viable fire protection service and things like that. And it seems as though an industrial component of a community is integral and necessary to be able to maintain critical infrastructure such as that. And as everybody, nobody likes to pay taxes, but it's a necessary evil. We kind of all know that. And in order to maintain the viability of a tax system in a bedroom community like this, there has to be a level of industrial development that occurs, or else it becomes overwhelming.
Yeah. And I guess proponents are saying that if the water and sewer lines were extended, there may well be development regardless of what Highgate does. But the proponents are talking about better development or more taxes, better jobs without water and sewer. The thinking seems to be may not get much past some warehousing, but with water and sewer, who knows? There's, I guess there are projections for over maybe 1,000 jobs. We should note,
Absolutely.
way down the road, 10, 20, maybe even 25 years.
But for people like me and Nathaniel as well, I've got
Nice to be with
teenagers.
a couple of young people here.
I've got teenagers in high school, both looking at STEM careers,
Wow.
Professional careers. That if we could have something that would keep them local, it'd be great. Not only for me as a parent, but for the community as well, to keep that talent and to keep that work and keep that employment local.
And Nathaniel, for your two very young kids, who knows, maybe by the time they're, up around 20 or 20s or so, it'd be nice to have some local jobs possibly, huh?
Yeah, the way as it stands, most of the people I went to school with at NVU, most of them work in, Burlington. A lot of them moved, some of them to the West Coast, all over the country. I moved back as a 30-year-old, so, and I'm kind of in a lucky, privileged position because I have a family farm to come back to. But otherwise I'd be easily having to travel to Burlington.
Yeah.
And for my kids, if they want to do something, having jobs around here that are, or other industry, there'd be more incentive to live here. It kind of all rises together. I think it all runs parallel.
Yeah. Would your teenage kids, Andy, would they talk about would they ideally like to stay in Vermont, do you think, or who knows?
Well, I'd like to think so.
Sure.
They would have to probably speak for themselves, but,
Sure.
but I'd like to think so.
But it'd be nice to at least, if they had the opportunity and some good jobs in case they wanted to, obviously.
Absolutely, and that's what it boils down to is the viability of a career for them, something that can be not only lucrative but enjoyable and give them a place to raise their own families if they choose to do so.
Yeah.
And,
I know the field days issue. We probably should get that out of the way.
Yep.
I'm sure some folks are maybe blaming the town. I guess field days is presumably looking for a new home. In fact, is field days even happening this summer? I can't even tell.
I believe it is, and from what I understand about the situation, Richard, is that I do know that the field day site is a state-owned land, and the state project is moving forward with or without the Highgate portion of the infrastructure, and that's what's driving the move. Not anything that the town is doing.
Right.
We all love the field days. We all, we grew up there.
Yeah, great
We
event.
want it to continue. It's a great event.
I trust the Grateful Dead appreciated also back in the mid-90s.
And from what I understand is that move is being driven by other than what the town of Highgate is proposing.
So for all the Field Days fans out there, if you're upset about hearing Field Days, it's going to have to find a new site. Don't blame the town on that.
Yeah.
And in fact, Habitat for Humanity, an example of course, they had their place right next to the airport, and they moved out maybe a couple of years ago.
Yep.
So.
Exactly.
So the thought of good jobs, and again, Franklin County, we're not talking Tim Smith. I know Tim pretty well, his day job, Franklin County Industrial Development Corp., which supports the project, but not a lot of manufacturing sites. It sounds like Franklin County could use some more sites.
Yeah, I think with or without the infrastructure project, that site's going to be developed.
Yeah.
And if they don't get that water and sewer, then they're limited to, we talked about that earlier, just warehousing, and that pays a lot less.
Yeah.
And then you also have, a smaller pool to, get people to come in. So, and we want to get the manufacturing and the food jobs because then, you get a higher average wages. And I just think it'd be a big miss if we don't kind of cater to that, especially with how much money we're going to get for the project.
I guess a concern, obviously, for some people, maybe older people like me, but I'm not sure you're going to run into too many people saying, sounds like a terrible project, but maybe especially for older folks, say, how many years down the road are you talking about? What's in it for me? I guess you're going to run into that from some people, Andy?
Sure.
So what do you tell those folks?
Well, it's
your kids, grandkids, or whatever?
And it's a matter of keeping your town a viable entity for many years to come. Not just the years that you will see the fruit of this investment, but leading up to that time frame where you see the jobs that have been created, you see that actual effect on the community. You'll be able to maintain your critical infrastructure, like I was speaking about earlier, up until that point.
Yeah. Nathaniel, anything you want to jump on that point at all?
It's kind of a no-brainer, really. You kind of hit the nail on the head. It's you got to kind of lean forward in these things, and I think in addition to that, why that's not going to affect me if I'm older, You have to eventually make the first move. And with these grants, we can't get the grant started until we get the vote. So, there's a lot of gray area. And I understand why people are, wary of that. But, it's going to take some forward thinking and, leaning forward to get this done, I think.
And at the end of the day, for a town, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to bolster
Absolutely.
A level of economic growth that most towns only dream about and never will achieve.
Yeah.
And we've got the opportunity to achieve that growth on the backs of other investment.
I've been around here for, it's a little scary, almost half a century. In my early days up here, it seems like most of the new jobs that came in were Quebec-based manufacturers looking to jump across the border. And of course, the border's been shut down with the pandemic. Hopefully opening again in the next few months.
That would be nice.
Well, they're also building the Canadian interstate to link in with I-89 too.
Right.
So that's just only going to make things easier to
Well,
travel.
talk about an easy trip to Montreal once that gets done and the border reopens, which I trust it will at some point. But yeah, that was a big thing. There were just a lot of Quebec companies, so that trend certainly could come back. But the location would seem to be ideal. 7 miles south of the border, 2 miles from the interstate.
It's perfect.
So just a lot of things going for it. Is there hearing much? You guys are Highgate residents. Is there much talk about the project at this point? We're still a few months before the vote, of course.
Yeah, I'm hearing more and more as we get closer.
Yeah.
I think we're slowly, putting a damper on the rumor that this project affects the field days. I think that was the biggest thing I was hearing. Everybody was concerned about that.
Yeah.
But I feel like, we've kind of beaten that up, and I think we should continue to, reaffirm that, because we should know that this is 3 different projects, that are going on.
Yeah.
I think that's important to highlight.
And I think it's important also to highlight that out of these 3 projects, 2 of them are going to happen.
Regardless of what happens September 14th.
Regardless of the bond vote in September.
And has the state already moved? Has the state done anything with the airport at this point? They're looking to extend the runways or actual.
I've got some viz on that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So they're
thanks.
gonna do a 4,000-foot runway.
And what is it now?
It's 3,000 feet.
So 1,000-foot extension.
But the plan is they ideally want to do 5,000.
Oh,
so
really?
So that would be better, because you get bigger planes come in, and and I believe they're going to put 5 big hangars. I don't want to get officially quoted on that.
But it sounds like that's already an issue. There's already kind of a waiting list for hangars at this point, apparently.
It's really geared towards small aviation, and we have this gem of a airport that it's been there for. I think it's one of the first airports in the country too. So,
oh, really? Interesting.
So we have this gem and opportunity on with the 3 projects that are going on. So.
I do have a friend who lives close to the airport. He's not excited about the project, in part because he's just concerned there may be a lot more, air traffic. That remains to be seen. But do you know what the state's hopes are? Like I've heard before, maybe FedEx, but I'm hearing other people say, no, there's nothing nailed down on that. Do you know what the state is hoping to get out of this?
I think.
I realize you're not the state.
Yeah, as I read the report was that we're kind of an air corridor, and we're one of the northernmost hubs, just south of Montreal.
Yeah.
So it'd be kind of a good middle point. With those big hangars, then you can facilitate, aviation maintenance. So it goes back to what you talked about with your kids wanting to be in the STEM field. If you have a lot of A&P jobs, those are good paying jobs.
Yeah, for sure.
And the planes just come through, they land, get worked on, and then,
Interesting.
Burlington Airport is a busy, it's not the biggest airport, but for our state, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Especially with all the companies coming in, the expansion, there's flight academies. So that's just going to open up that and relieve all that congestion. So.
Yeah. And there's been, I've seen a reference or heard a reference to National Guard or Air Guard maybe down the road, but again, it sounds like that's nothing. I don't think people should expect the Air Guard to be moving out of BTV to come to Highgate or anything.
And one of the things.
There might be some presence down the road.
I think that would be. They're always a great presence to have.
You would say you wouldn't be unhappy about that?
Not at all.
They come with funding. So.
They come with funding, and government backing is obviously an ideal situation to have when you're
Yeah.
doing things like this. But some of the scuttle that I've heard around town and it is what I feel is a result of a misunderstanding. We talk about 1,000 to 1,200 jobs,
Yeah.
and it's I've heard it talked about as though tomorrow there's going to be 1,200 people in our town that are looking for housing and looking for infrastructure and things
And
like
filling
that.
up the schools and stuff.
And
yeah,
that's not
don't worry about
the
it.
case. As it is now, like I was talking about the bedroom community. If you've got a typical household in a bedroom community will generate from $2,000 to $5,000 to $6,000 in taxes maybe a year.
Yeah.
And if you've got two children in the school system at between $13,000 and $16,000 for each child to educate them, it's not hard to do the math on that.
Yeah.
We rely on the industrial component, and I see places like like the brick factory remains empty, things like that. We need to jump on these opportunities to expand our industry in the town in places that are appropriate. And the airport is just an ideal location for industrial development. It's ideal.
Yeah, we've touched on it. The first show we did on this was education related, but yeah, some school folks. But pretty psyched to have MVU literally next door to just a lot of potential opportunities for the kids, which you've touched on, Nathaniel.
Yeah, I think, and this opportunity is only coming around once with all the funding. Anytime you can get up to 80% of $3.5 million funded, with the opportunity to get all these business, even if you don't have people in writing committing to the project, I think it's a huge miss. It's a small price to pay now for, boundless growth.
Yeah.
It's like looking a gift horse in the mouth, so to say.
It's interesting because just today, actually on the way here, my daughter's participating in a job shadow at the company that I work for.
Huh.
And like I said, she's looking forward to a STEM career, although she's not sure exactly what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
And the conversation that we had on our way back up the interstate this afternoon was, maybe you should kind of think about what would you really enjoy doing, and then tailor your degree after that. And she said, I haven't experienced enough to be able to really, I don't know what I really want to do. And having that industrial component with high level of professional jobs gives that in the local area so that you can have internships, you can have the job shadowing, you can give these kids the opportunity to see things in motion and make good decisions as to what they want to do with their future, whether it's in Highgate or elsewhere.
I should know we're taping this show on Wednesday, June 30th, in case big news develops that you're not hearing us talk about, but I don't know what that would be. But
Right.
To piggyback on what he was just saying, that this is slightly a separate subject, but it kind of related, is when kids are trying to figure out what they do. I know I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was 18 years old.
I sure
But
didn't.
kids getting saddled with all this debt, if they have exposure to different industries, especially like a park like this would have, if the aviation asset is there, that's a wide-ranging experience base to draw from.
Yeah.
And I no doubt that there will be a partnership with the school to, your family members, friends will work there. So other than people abstract ideas in Burlington or abroad that you get, that's like real hands-on, experience to make an informed decision.
And many times a job shadow or an internship will light a fire in a young person that will change their lives.
Yeah.
Just literally change the direction of their lives. What's that worth?
When you're on the select board, just out of curiosity, does the select board have any kind of formal or informal relationship with the airport folks? Certainly they're a big player in Highgate. Would you periodically get any updates on what they are up to when you're on the board?
It's I'm not aware of a formal,
Right.
but informally we are certainly kept up to date on, or were anyways.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's been quite a few years since I've served on the select
Gotcha.
board. But
I would think these days, with such a big project, that the select board would certainly be in close touch with the Highgate folks.
agreed.
Just to mention again, one of the comments I heard from a Highgate resident who's just not thrilled about the project, but when I mentioned, well, I think it's looking to the future, when talked about maybe 1,000 or more jobs way down in the future, possibly, and of course the response from my friend was, hey, Richard, these companies can't find enough people to fill jobs now, so why do we want more jobs? Well, I guess hopefully that situation changes down the road.
I
It
think
seems
if we,
like it's tough times. It
Yeah.
seems like everybody's looking for help these days. So I can understand the point in a way.
I think it's a different situation if you're trying to hire $15 an hour employees, or if you're trying to hire six-figure employees.
Yeah.
On a professional level, and it's just it's a different
And that's
situation.
obviously the hope. I mean, if this
Absolutely.
pans out the way supporters think, I mean, we could be talking just a lot of very good jobs here potentially way
Absolutely.
down the road.
Yep.
And
and that is, I think, the difference of the Highgate phase of the project of bringing the sewer and water is the difference between the lower wage jobs and the higher wage, long time career jobs. If we miss out on this, and then we're just that's what you're going to put a cap on what it could possibly be, rather than opening the door, so to say.
yeah.
So,
And bringing these families into our community, looking at what Carmen Brook Farm is hoping for the future, that just bolsters that, because you've got families that are going to visit the cidery, you've got families that are going to engage in agritourism, things like that you rely on to be able to make it through in the difficult dairy sector.
well, and then I think to go along with that, if you have more jobs come, there's more money, then there's more opportunity for, other farmers who might decide that they want to switch from, selling their milk wholesale. Maybe they could make cheeses. If we join the cheese trail, if you look at the state agritourism map, there's a big hole in Franklin County on their promoted list, and I think that's
For agritourism.
agritourism.
Oh, really?
You look on there, there's a big hole in Franklin County,
And
and
it's kind of ironic, seeing it's just, still the top dairy county,
Yeah,
I
right.
think, in New England, as far as I know.
and having that gives these entrepreneurial farmers a chance to change maybe their model, and not have to sell. And you see the farms growing larger. The land gets sucked up, and there's fewer farms. There's not any less land being farmed. There's just fewer farms. And you can look at the wages. The farm labor wages have gone down in the last 20 years to an unlivable wage. So, it's bleak in that regards. But when you have stuff like this, once in a lifetime projects come around, this isn't just an effect on the manufacturing jobs. That's a community-wide effect. It's kind of that old saying. I hate to say a cliche, but the rising tides raise all ships. So. It'd be a real shame, I think, to miss out on this opportunity.
Yeah. I think we touched on this off air, maybe even on air a little bit, but a vision for a Highgate future. I mean, some folks who have been maybe lifelong Highgate residents, just might be a little hard for them to kind of picture a kind of an industrial park, or maybe some fairly big companies. Is that maybe part of the problem with some of the folks who maybe not be too keen on this project? Just hard to picture such maybe a different Highgate, Andy?
Well, I'll tell you, to comment on that, Richard, I see in the last, well, just from my recent memory, in the last several years, just an explosion of single-family home development. Everywhere you go, there's a field that's turning into a house farm.
Yeah.
And like we talked about before, if you've got the $2,000 to $5,000 in tax revenue off of every roof that you see, and then you've got 2 or 3 children in the school system, it's not hard to do the math. That's going backwards by a long stretch. And so if we want to maintain really what the integrity of our town is, and the charm and the that we've grown to love in our town, really it takes a level of industrial development, and the location that this is being proposed, it's just ideal. It's just ideal. It's already borderline an industrial location already, and to bolster that just seems like an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah. Do you, probably not with your younger friends, Nathaniel, do you run into that? Just maybe older folks just having, it's just such kind of a different outlook for Highgate, so different than the past of Highgate. Do you run into anybody like that, or maybe not?
I think that's split. My dad's an old farmer, old Highgate farmer, and he recognizes it.
Yeah.
He can remember when the way things used to be, and just in his lifetime it's changed. I think if you're not noticing it, it's happening. And it's whether we facilitate the change and take an active role in it, to kind of mold it the way that Highgate wants it. It's going to happen, and it may not. It may happen in a different way that isn't as beneficial to the community. Really, to highlight what you said. So I think it's going to happen. One version. We can be proactive on it, or we can kind of keep digging our heels, and so the opportunities are going to go elsewhere.
Yeah. Have you got a sense now? We're about 2 months, a little over 2 months from the vote, 2.5 months. Have you got a sense if there was a vote today, Andy? Have you got a sense how that vote would go today?
Boy, I'm busy enough down in Burlington, Richard, that my finger's not really on that pulse.
Yeah.
But I know what my vote would be.
Yeah. Nathaniel, have you got a feel for that?
I think that now that it's getting talked about, I think there's kind of a swell now towards the positive. But I do, just from asking about the amount of people that actually vote, I do think that unless people do come out and vote, if there is people that are against it, it won't take many votes to turn it unfavorable for Highgate, in my opinion, with a negative vote. So I think that of all the times to come forward for people to actually get out there and vote on an initiative like this is the time is now. But I think it's going to be, I would guess that it's going to be favorable.
And first and foremost, be informed. Make an informed vote.
Always a good idea.
Yeah.
So again, 3.5 million total project cost, but again, the local share, the Highgate taxpayer share effectively will be, sounds like maybe quite a bit less than that.
Dramatically less.
And I'm sure the Highgate folks are still working on getting any grant money they can. Anything down to about 3 minutes? Anything we haven't touched on? Any point you want to throw at us, Andy?
Just again, I appreciate the opportunity to sit here in this venue and chat with you about it. I think it's very important for the future of not only just my particular family, but for the community of Highgate. We're standing on the edge of something that could be talked about hundreds of years from now.
So do you, with one of your jobs here, Nathaniel, do you deal with Franklin County State Airport? Do you? Is that where you're doing your helicopter?
I'm based out of Burlington, but I fly to Franklin County, and
really?
You can tell that it's kind of a neglect. It's in need of these repairs.
Is that right? But what else are we talking? So extending the runway, widening the runway,
widening it, extending it, adding hangars,
more light, better lighting, or
all that stuff.
Is that right?
It'll bring it right up to modern standards.
So it's a need. It could use an upgrade,
it,
regardless of anything else here.
Yeah, and thankfully that's happening.
Yeah.
And then, I think if you don't mind, I highlight one thing on that.
That's fine. Yeah, I've got a couple minutes.
The funding is, I think the genius thing about this funding is that we get the Vermont, we have to do an 80% match of the federal funds, but the Vermont funds that we can get from VTrans count towards that 80%, so that we're allowed to minimize the town's cost. So if you're looking at a project of this scale, and that the fact that we have to pay so little, that kind of goes back to what I'm saying, is like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Otherwise, we might be footing a bill of $1 million, and that, I can see people's reservations on that, but like the amount of funding we're going to get if we vote to get this, and then that gets the ball rolling to continue working on additional grants.
So presumably for some of the companies that would locate, if this pans out, if voters approve the water and sewer line extension, and obviously for some companies having an airport runway next to their company is hugely beneficial, obviously for a bunch of companies, I assume.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that
opens up all kinds of windows, because you don't have to then put it on a truck and, extra levels of logistics. It's just off the truck, and the guy could probably drive a forklift and pick it up and bring it to their manufacturing.
And
facility.
for the community as well, local traffic, things like that, it mitigates it.
Yeah. Interesting. So big doings in Highgate. Actually, I can't think of not that I'm on top of things these days too much, but can't think of a bigger issue in Franklin County. In fact, I'm not sure I'm even thinking of any other votes coming up this summer, but it's a big issue with certainly ramifications beyond Highgate also.
Agreed.
Anyway, so September 14 is the vote. Well, thanks very much. I appreciate you guys taking some time out of your very busy days, I'm sure. Again, Andy King, former Highgate Select Board member, now employed at an aviation company in Burlington, and Nathaniel Fortin, marketing and sales at Carmen Brook Farm and contract rotorcraft CFI. But thanks for your time, and good luck with, we'll see what happens. Hopefully there'll be a lot more information coming out about this. And thanks to my producer, Alan, for doing all the hard work. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. Thanks for watching us here on Northwest Access TV. See ya.